master was so practical. And he wasn't stuck on religious observances. It was inner communion with God. And in the Festival of Light, which I believe you celebrate here occasionally, it talks about how Jesus came to Babaji and said, "The lights on the high altar of my church have grown dim. The lights on the lower altars are still lit," but I can't remember the quote exactly, but people are stuck on, these observances that don't have meaning. And what people really need is inner communion with me. And so that's where it all began for us. Jesus implored Babaji to send someone to the West to activate and to teach people how to find that inner connection with God, which here in India, I don't think you've really lost it. But I know there are a lot of ceremonies that maybe don't have as much meaning, but it really depends on the person and how much meaning they put into the ceremony. Can you put a little less reverb on this, or echo? Thank you. So that's where it all started, and we know who that was, who started this great movement. Of course, it was Yogananda, who was sent to the West to show the link between the East and the West, and to show that the teachings of India are alive. And that's why Swamiji wrote this book with all the topics for every week, the rays of the one light, because there's a reading from the Bible and there's a reading from the Bhagavad Gita, and it shows the link between them and how it's all related. I want to read Whispers from Eternity. That's Master's prayer demands. I want to feel thee just behind the voice of my prayer. O Father, thou art just behind my vision, with which I see thy beauty without. Thou art just behind my listening power, with which I hear thy voice in all creation. Thou art just behind my touch, with which I feel thy world. In the sweetness of flowers and in the zest of sustaining food lies hidden the essence of thy being, thine eternal sweetness. Thou art just behind the voice of my prayer. Thou art just behind the mind with which I pray. Thou art just behind my glistening feelings. Thou art just behind my thoughts. Thou art just behind my cravings for thee. Thou art just behind my meditations. Thou art just behind the veil of nature's splendors. Thou art just behind the screen of my love. Behind all these mystic screens, reveal thyself as thou art. I think this is a lovely expression of, sometimes we feel so close. We're in nature, we see a beautiful sunset or the moonrise, or we've been chanting and we can feel like, what is it that is just keeping us from totally merging in that God consciousness? And it's that veil. And so this is a lovely prayer reminding us that God is behind everything we do. And if we can keep that consciousness, everything we do, at work, at play, with our families, traveling with strangers, we find that God reveals himself to us in simple, small ways. There's a story of a woman who was at the Expanding Light, and she told the story of how she was studying for her exams. And she was up visiting a beautiful place with her husband up in Canada, and she wanted to stay and study and just, it was a lot of pressure. And yes, of course she had to study for them. But her husband was saying, let's go out into the mountains. And so finally she reluctantly went And she was a little concerned because, well, I don't feel ready. I'm going to feel stressed out about the exams. But she had a wonderful time, and she enjoyed nature, and she went for a run, and she really felt God's grace in the experience. And she went back, and she was able to bring that same feeling and that same grace into the exam room with her, and not worry about it, not be too stuck in her head, but be in her heart. And she, of course, passed the exams. So that's an example of how we can bring God into our everyday life like that. Swamiji was a perfect example of being a brilliant mind and having a huge heart of devotion. When he first went to Master, you can read these passages in the New Path, and he's telling of, he was kind of intellectualizing and not critiquing, but he was in his head. He hadn't really learned yet the art of devotion and the art of chanting. But very quickly he did, being around such a great Prem avatar as Yogananda. And he is able to be such a beautiful example for us of a bright mind, clear, concise, with focus, and of course his childlike energy and laughter and his devotion, his chanting, his singing, and what an amazing channel he was. With all the music that he brought to us and all the great writings, all the inspiration that he brought to us. This Christmas, at Ananda Village, we had a tradition that Swamiji would read to us every Christmas Day from P.G. Wodehouse. You know P.G. Wodehouse? And so I live at Ananda CZ, and so my friend Dana, who's a great artist, and maybe you know her, she lived here in India for a few years, she and I decided to have a little brunch on Christmas morning and invite the other Americans who remembered this. And Shivani, who lives in Assisi, she brought an audio file of Swamiji reading a P.G. Wodehouse. And we were laughing so hard that our stomachs hurt. And I mean, P.G. Wodehouse is a great writer and very humorous. But the way Swamiji read it, because he would do the different voices, but more importantly, he was laughing so hard himself. And you know how laughter is contagious. When someone's laughing, sometimes you all just start laughing and get hysterical, and you don't know why. You're just, that's what it was like for us. And I thought somebody should make a continuous tape loop of Swamiji's, all the different kinds of laughter, because there were so many variations of his laugh, and it just opens your heart. And what a joy it was to have him as a teacher, and for him to be able to be here his last few years of his life. There's a story when Ananda started its work in Italy. We had a house up in the north of Italy. It was very cold, and it was owned by a devotee there. And so Padma from Seattle was given the job of talking to the owner to tell her, ask her if she could turn the heat on, for instance. Diana lived there during this time, and I remember hearing stories that they had their meetings on someone's bed wrapped up in down comforters, because that's how cold it was. And so Padma went to talk to this person, and she wasn't being very cooperative. And Padma was using all of her reasoning abilities and, from her mind, trying to negotiate and help this woman to see this was a dharmic thing to do, to turn the heat on for us. And then out of the blue, Swamiji said something that seemed totally unrelated, like coming from left field. Do you have that term? Like, where'd that come from? It seemed unrelated. But the woman, for some reason, she just changed her attitude, and then they started brainstorming and coming up with solutions. And Padma's, they're like, how did he do this, and what did he do? And afterwards, Swamiji said to him, said to Padma, she said, I know you think I'm a good negotiator, but that's not what happened. I just listened to what Divine Mother is telling me, and I say what she wants me to say. And that is the key. When our hearts are open, our intuition is expanded, we can hear the message from Divine Mother, we can go through this world acting from that place, not from, well, I think we should do that. I mean, certainly it's good to have reasoning abilities, but you don't want to get stuck in that. The key is to stay in your heart. And again, it's a balance. You don't want to just be wishy-washy all the time, too. So finding that balance, that's our journey on the spiritual path. And of course, our greatest journey is attunement, and to keep listening and to put up our antennas. What is the right answer here? Intuition. We get that through meditation, through devotion, through chanting is half the battle for devotion. I've heard that said probably many times. I'll just share one last story. We're going a little late. A friend of mine from the U.S., actually he used to run the Mumbai meditation group many years ago, Casey. When I first started coming to Pune, I lived here. I first came in 2011, and I was here for 3 years. We were all living out in the Pune community in the retreat center. And Casey was running the Mumbai meditation group. And now he has a beautiful little Bali temple in his backyard in Encinitas, which is where the beautiful gardens are, and Master's retreat center is there. It's where he wrote Autobiography of a Yogi. And Casey has continued to come to India and go on pilgrimage, and he had this idea, and again, this is someone who you feel that he is listening to Divine Mother and he's her hands. He's not doing this out of his own ego satisfaction. He's doing it to serve and because he feels guided to do it. He investigated the possibility of putting a murti of Yogananda on the Ghat in Varanasi. And there's nothing there of Master and Yogananda in Varanasi. And here, this is where Master met Yukteswar, where Lahiri lived, where Master's parents brought him as a baby, and Lahiri blessed him and said, your son is going to be a spiritual engine and bring many souls to God. This is a powerful place, Varanasi, we all know that. So there's a lot of red tape because the Ghats are claimed by different families. Maybe you all know this. I just found all this out. Casey explained the story to me. And so they have their Brahmins and their pujaris, and each little plot is belonged to this family for 4,000 years, etc. But somehow Casey, Divine Mother, sent him the right people, and he has a little place in Manikarnika Ghat, and Master's a 40-inch statue of Master is about to be dedicated there on Master's Mahasamadhi on Wednesday. In case he's just arriving there tomorrow to do the final touches, and there'll also be little niches for Babaji, Lahiri, and Yukteswar. And so it will be a Yogananda shrine. It will not be affiliated with an organization. It won't be YSS, SRF, Ananda, it's everything, it's Master. And so Casey wrote to me a couple of weeks ago, you must come on Master's Mahasamadhi. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't, I'm in Pune. I'm going to be here from Master's Mahasamadhi, but let me see if I can get a ticket the next day. And so I did, and I said, okay, I'm just going to do it. I feel like this is a message. I didn't think about it too much. And I questioned that later. I'll tell you, you'll see at the end of this story. But I thought, nope, I'm just going to trust. We'll just go. I can do it. I have enough money on the credit card. We'll do the ticket. And I made it just for 2 days because I need to go back to NCR before I go back to Assisi. And a couple of days ago, I was staying at the Delhi Center, and Casey messaged me, well, turns out we have to leave on March 8th because Anka, his partner, had to have a shoulder surgery in Mumbai, and the timing was such that I was going to arrive after they left. And So I went down into the meditation room in the Delhi Center. There's actually 3 beautiful meditation rooms, but this, if you've ever been there, it's the one that's downstairs on the right. Huge pictures of the masters in the front and on the sides, and it's all this beautiful blue, and you feel like you're just embraced. And I sat there and I attempted to meditate, and I've been to Varanasi once, and I was feeling a little like, what am I doing? Is this a big mistake? Oh, this is so stupid. I just spur of the moment did this, and now Casey's not even going to be there, and I'm going to be there all by myself. And, I could feel my energy going, and I'm like, nope, stop, don't even go there. Master has a plan, and I'm looking at the pictures of Master and Yukteswar right next to each other. What did you have in mind? Tell me, does this really... Should I cancel my tickets, And this happened twice. I just have the little glimmer of negativity, a little doubt, and I could feel my energy going, and then, nope, don't go there, Master has a plan. And then right then the phone rings, and it's Casey, and he says, I'm so glad you're coming, and I really need your help because I have to leave earlier now, and I'm going to, have you meet this person, and you're going to be making some decisions about this and that, and you can stay here, and this is my friend, and they'll take good care of you. And it's just one of those examples of, if we try hard to keep our energy in the right place, all the masters will take care of us. It's our intent. Our heart's intent is to serve. How can we serve thee, Lord my God? How can we worship thee? How can we love thee? How can we seek thee? If we just keep putting out energy, and if it starts to dip, which happens sometimes, we're not perfect, that's why we're here. We have moments, and we just like, okay, nope, don't go there. Come on, up. Then God answers. God is always there, behind the veil, and we just have to remember. So, thank you very much.